it is an AI tool where it can look at your Amazon data and give you recommendations.
And if they get out of stock, so what they're losing?
And then another trick is to look at your packaging. Data is extremely important. Data helps you to forecast. So now they have all of their money tied up in that inventory, which is not going to sell through for 6 months. Amazon is saying, here's a score. Here's how we score you in terms of how good or bad we think you are. Well, Amazon will make your listing inactive if your pricing is much higher. A lot of businesses are focused on revenue. There needs to be this shift to focusing on not just revenue but profit. When you have a bunch of inventory that you purchased from your supplier, you have to put it somewhere.
Exactly.
And Amazon FBA is not the best place to keep it. The most important people in terms of inventory and profit are the marketing people.
Amazon supply chain management is one of the most important component of Amazon, just like other components like product research, product sourcing, listing optimization, and marketing. But I have seen that many of these sellers do this mistake, like they put too much focus and money on other components, like too much money on marketing, on product research, product sourcing, and launching. And then they launch and rank their product and start getting sales. But they don't put too much focus on the supply chain management and restocking the inventory. So after ranking on first page, when they suddenly get out of stock, so their new stock will comes into Amazon FBA warehouse like after 30 or 40 days. So in that period, they lose their ranking and they lose all the money they put into marketing. So just like that, in this video, I have invited a very special guest with us. She is an Amazon supply chain expert and she is a founder of an amazing supply chain tool called SoStocked. So if you also want to learn about supply chain, like how important is this for your Amazon business and how you can become expert in it so you cannot run out of stock anywhere. So keep watching this video till the end without skipping any part. Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Uzair from waystosign-online.com and welcome to the Ways to Sign Online show, where we bring the industry experts from the e-commerce industry. We discuss a lot of things with them so you guys can actually learn from them and implement those strategies in your business to scale. So just like that, in this video, we are having a very special guest with us. Her name is Chelsea. She is an Amazon seller herself, and she is a founder of an amazing Amazon FBA tool called SoStocked. So basically, this tool is for those people who want to manage their logistics and want to maintain the supply chain. So Chelsea, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
All right. So thank you for being on the show on very short notice. So first of all, let me know about yourself, like for those people who don't know you can know about you, like who you are, what you do, and then we can start discussing something about your tool, SoStocked, and supply chain.
Yeah, excellent. So yeah, I started selling on Amazon 2014, and around 2018, I started having trouble with inventory. Inventory supply chain started getting more complex. And so I was looking for solutions. I had experienced stockouts and overstocking. So I went to look for other software, but really didn't find anything that worked well. It didn't have the customization that I needed. And so I met up with someone who already had experience with software. We partnered up and we created SoStocked. And we were a huge part of 2020 and the shifts that COVID caused. And after that point, about 2022, we actually ended up being acquired by Carbon 6, which is an ecosystem of Amazon software tools, which brings all of the tools together, and have been with them for the past 2 years and continuing to develop and improve sellers' ability to forecast their sales and inventory.
Okay, that's great. So as you told me that from 2014 you were selling and right now it's 2024, so almost 10 years of selling experience you are having. So what are the main challenges you faces regarding supply chain in your initial days? Like at that time, obviously you were not having any tools like SoStocked. So what were those challenges and how you overcome them like without having that tool? And after launching that tool, how much easy is that to overcome those challenges?
Sure. Yeah. So some of the challenges were just losing track of when our products were supposed to be shipped out, losing track of where the inventory was, how much we had, and not really projecting sales. It took a long time to download the reports, to get them into a form where we could see the data. And then even with the data pulled from Amazon, the historical data, we didn't have information on being able to track our marketing plans. You know, Amazon doesn't know your marketing plans, so they don't provide insights into what your actual sales will be. So marketing plans was a problem. Also, when you have warehouses and you have other markets, it becomes a lot more complex. So now you have to, with warehouses, you have to know when to order, but also when to transfer because you have stock. It's just not at Amazon.
Okay, so you are saying that the Amazon marketing plan and our restocking plan are not synchronized, so there is a gap between that, so we cannot be able to like cope up with that. Okay, so can you explain what the Amazon supply chain looks like from a seller's perspective, like, and why it is so critical to success?
Yeah, so nowadays, you know, we used to be able to send inventory by air directly to Amazon or by sea directly to Amazon, and now there's a lot more steps involved. So you'll order inventory from your supplier, and generally you'll send the inventory over and it'll go to a third-party logistics company. And from there, you'll usually store some amount and then you'll drip feed it into Amazon FBA to avoid having too much inventory. And Amazon has a lot of fees associated with having too much inventory sitting there. So then you'll transfer inventory on a regular basis, and then Amazon will, you know, get that inventory and send it out and fulfill it to your customers.
Okay, great. So just like other components of Amazon, like Amazon marketing, Amazon like product research, so why is inventory management such a crucial part for Amazon supply chain, and what are the risks of getting it wrong?
Yeah, so with inventory management, especially now, Amazon makes it very costly to overstock or to understock.
Exactly.
You now have fees if you have too much inventory. If you have inventory sitting there for too long, you have a lot of extra fees called aged inventory fees. And aged inventory fees, if you have had your inventory in there for 6 months or longer, you're going to pay extra fees starting with 50 cents per cubic foot, which stacks on top of your normal storage fee. And then the next 30 days, it goes up to $1 per cubic foot, which is essentially more than doubling what you're usually paying. And then the 9-month mark is where it gets really crazy, in that on top of your regular storage fees, you're paying $5.45 per cubic foot. So it can get really, really expensive on that side, and then expensive on the other side because they also introduced a low inventory level fee. So on both sides, your margins start decreasing significantly when you don't monitor that carefully and keep into that kind of preferred range by Amazon.
Yeah, so if someone want to scale their business and get profitable in scaling, so they must need to have a good supply chain management.
Yeah, and you use the word scale, which is spot on. I like to equate that to the marketing side of things, where marketing is traffic and conversion. There's those basic pieces. If you want your sales to increase, you have to improve one of those or both, right? And we're very used to seeing that, and that's how a lot of sellers think. But in terms of scale, scale similarly is composed of profit and cash flow. So inventory management, and not only we can talk also about how to structure your business for cash flow, but inventory management is very much centered on how to get more profit and more cash flow in order to scale. So that's where inventory and supply chain are a huge key to unlocking scale.
Okay, great. So I have seen that many of the people who are doing the Amazon business in starting they put too much money and focus on the product research, sourcing and marketing, but they don't focus on the supply chain. And later on when they rank on first page of Amazon, they start getting sales and they just got out of stock. So can you let us know like how horrible is this for any seller who is already ranked and like getting out of stock? How horrible is this? And if they get out of stock, so what they're losing?
Yeah, so when you're launching a product and you run out of stock, that can obviously affect the ranking. There are certain things you can do, like closing your account, or not closing your account, sorry, closing that listing to help to maintain that rank so that you end up coming back in stock at that, higher range, kind of signaling to Amazon, I went out of stock. I'm not, my sales are decreasing because of that out of stock, not because, people don't want my product. So on that side of things, it's going to affect your ranking, and every so often that product won't recover. We've seen that it's not always the case, but that can happen. And so you'll order a bunch of inventory to, serve that product in your next bout, and then the sales traffic is not as high. So you end up with a bunch of excess inventory, which obviously, like we said, gets expensive.
Exactly. So most of the people overlook this thing, so they should not.
Say that again?
I said that most of the people overlook this thing, like they put too much focus on the other components but not on this, but they have to, because if they want to scale and they want to get sustained in Amazon ranking, so they have to be in stock every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what are the key components of a strong supply chain strategy for Amazon sellers, and how can it impact their business growth?
Yeah, so obviously it's important to, get a product at a fair price. I feel like what sellers are overlooking first and foremost is the importance of terms, of payment terms. There's a lot of negotiation in terms of, that pricing, but payment terms make a huge difference when it comes to scale. It's your cash flow. Exactly. So I've seen accounts where they've ordered, 4 to 6 months worth of inventory in bulk, and then sent that inventory straight into FBA, and then 6 months worth of inventory is sitting there, eventually collecting fees. But on the supplier side, they pay 30% down and then 70% when it ships. So now they have all of their money tied up in that inventory, which is not going to sell through for 6 months. Exactly. That's a huge strain on the cash flow. You're tying up all of your cash, and you're buying too much inventory, and you're tying it all up from already paying for it. So if you're able to negotiate terms where it's, say, 30% down, 60%, you pay the 70%, the remaining balance, as the inventory ships out. Say you've got 3 months worth of inventory that you ordered, and every month you send more stock. You can then control that flow by only paying the 70% for the stock that ships out. So you're controlling that flow of cash, so you can invest in marketing and launching new products as well.
Okay, so maintaining the cash flow is very important to get profitable and to scale. Okay, so how SoStocked can actually help sellers to maintain their supply chain, like inventory in pipeline, or maintain their cash flow?
Yeah, so being able to set up rules within SoStocked, we have something called, buffer stock or safety stock. That is the inventory where you say, I never want to go below this amount of inventory. Okay. So set your minimum, and we do something called min-max restocking, which sets a maximum and a minimum, sets this range so that as we're calculating our forecast, we look at what's that range that I want to fit in, what is my lead time, how much time does it take to place that order and have it arrive, so that when it arrives, I am about hitting my minimum, and then I stock up to my maximum, and then I sell through to my minimum. And so it's this rule that's set up to tell you when to order and how much to order to stay within that range.
Okay, great. So what common supply chain mistakes do you see Amazon seller is making nowadays, and how can they fix them?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, sending too much inventory in
Mm-hmm.
is a huge mistake. Sending it all at once,
Mm-hmm.
that is a problem in terms of, the aged inventory fees, excess storage fees. So not controlling that flow, not dripping your inventory in,
Mm-hmm.
that can be huge. In terms of, there are some things where it's not necessarily a mistake, but you can be smarter with the way that you do things. For example, if you store in China, in a warehouse in China, and you store your inventory and you work with a logistics company that does what's called consolidated shipments.
Mm-hmm.
Consolidated shipments basically mean they have a bunch of clients and they send inventory in a container where they put all of their clients' inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the same rates as if you were shipping a container, or at least similar rates as if you're shipping your own container, but you're dripping it in over time. So a lot of people, they try to get a container or, a partial container to save money, but then they pay more money on the side of the storage fees. So it ends up being a solution. One that comes to mind is called SKU drop, where you can drip feed it in, you can pay less in storage fees by storing in China, and still get those container rates.
Okay, great. So how can seller optimize their inventory with SoStock to reduce storage fees, like while ensuring that they meet customer demand? Because I have seen that many of the people don't deal with that situation, because sometimes they think that the next month they can expect the sales, and sometimes sales exceed the expectation. So how can they cope up with that?
Yeah. So first of all, like I mentioned, min-max restocking is valuable, but that's only part of the picture. There's a lot of people who already have an excess inventory problem. They have inventory that, like you said, didn't perform the way that they expected.
Exactly.
It's been sitting there. And since a lot of businesses are focused on revenue, there needs to be this shift to focusing on not just revenue, but profit. And the marketing teams need to take responsibility for their portion of maintaining profit. So in terms of SoStock, what we built was we have a dashboard that shows a projection of storage fees and aged inventory fees for every single product, so that you can see what am I currently being charged in aged inventory fees, and over the next 8 to 12 months, based on my current forecast, how much is it going to cost me, so that I can recognize those ASINs that are slow sellers that maybe I forgot about because I'm focusing on my best sellers. Say, okay, that's a problem. I'm not going to worry about that because I need to drive the revenue. You are able to see, oh, this product is going to incur $12,000 in fees over the next, 3-6 months or whatever it is. That then becomes a problem. So instead of continually getting charged these fees and not knowing where your profit is going and your cash flow, the marketing team can focus on a slow seller or excess inventory campaign. Just have your best sellers campaign and then your slow sellers excess inventory campaign. Sell through that inventory by dropping the price, coupons, those types of things, so that you are able to avoid those fees and maybe even use that inventory to boost the rankings.
Exactly. So what do you say about Amazon FBA and 3PL? Like, why we need 3PL, and at what stage Amazon sellers should think about using 3PL? Like, how can Amazon FBA help streamline supply chain operations, and what should seller watch out for?
Yeah, so with the 3PL, a lot of people are moving over to that because Amazon's fees are so high. Initially, people moved over to that because Amazon had restrictions on what they could sell, right? How much inventory they could put into Amazon. So there's a huge movement toward external warehouses, but similar to what we mentioned, when you have a bunch of inventory that you purchased from your supplier, you have to put it somewhere.
Exactly.
And Amazon FBA is not the best place to keep it because you're going to incur all those fees. So that's why a 3PL can be a benefit.
Okay, so you are saying that it's a good strategy to just send some pieces to Amazon FBA warehouse and store the rest of the inventory at 3PL.
Yeah, that's generally how it's done.
Okay, and in SoStocked we can just feed that information like how much units of our product are there in Amazon FBA warehouse and how much are there in 3PL.
Yeah, exactly. The min-max restocking can be set for both levels, and then we'll forecast. I call it simultaneous forecasting, where we can say, this is when you need to place your order based on how much warehouse inventory you have, what your minimums are, all those different factors that are hard to keep track of. When do I have enough inventory to transfer? When do I have to take an order? All of those things, all of those moving parts are automated in the system to tell you what you need to do.
Okay, so are there any pros and cons of like using Amazon Fulfillment Network or handling ourselves, or maybe using 3PL, or it is okay to use 3PL?
So you said, are there any costs involved?
Yeah, pros and cons of using Amazon FBA and using 3PL.
Yeah, so using a 3PL is beneficial because you have a little bit more protection. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
And so what you then have is, if Amazon loses your inventory, which I've had happen before, then you have a backup. You're able to pivot. You're able to fulfill on your own. You're able to send in more stock. So you're not at the mercy of Amazon only. So that's why you'd have a 3PL. You can also, like I said, use it to fulfill from if you've got a 3PL that's a fulfillment center. And so that's the benefit, not sending inventory into Amazon to incur all those fees. You kind of drip it in.
So using...
And then as far as FBA, oh, sorry.
No, continue please.
Okay, and then as far as FBA with the pros and cons, pro is obviously you get, prime shipping. You don't have to fulfill. A lot of buyers want to see that prime 2-day shipping. And so Amazon handles all of that for you, which would be very costly, especially when starting out. And the cons are just a ton of fees, really, Aged inventory fees, inventory fees for too much inventory fees for too little, fees for shipping in, they're called inbound placement fees, and then a bunch of other, you got fulfillment fees and all of that.
Great. So like if you're using 3PL, so you're having a kind of a backup of your inventory at a cheaper price. Like if you send full inventory to Amazon FBA warehouse, they will charge a lot. So you can have a backup with a good cash flow.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so as this is like October month, and later on we can see there is a holiday season in December. So like how can seller manage stock levels effectively with SoStocked during peak season like Prime Day or the holidays? Because it has been seen that like in holiday season there is too much problem seller face with their stock levels.
Yeah, so first and foremost, it's projecting, right? Before you place those orders, look at your historical data, look at how you're trending. Are you up or down from the previous year? You can add your marketing plans into SoStocked. So we pull the data from Amazon, but then you have the ability to isolate certain time periods. Let's say Prime Day. We'll pull data for last year's Prime Day, but then if you want to build on top of that last year's data, you can do that. So that's the first piece, is obviously being able to forecast for those holiday seasons. And then the other side of things is, once that season starts, you should be forecasting and adjusting your marketing plan as that time goes on. So if I see Black Friday, I did better than I thought I would, I'd want to maybe increase my pricing to slow down sales, so that if I predict a stock out before the end of the season, I can actually try to avoid that stock out or reduce that stock out by increasing my price, reducing my ad spend, and then I'm making more profit for every single unit that I'm selling. So that's one of them. And then I'm working with a client right now who has very seasonal products. So by the end of the quarter, this person wants to sell out of their stock. right? You have Halloween or you have Christmas, I have a product that has, Christmas trees on it. I don't want to hold it for the next year. So I should be looking at my timeline. We have an inventory timeline, and you can see when is that product forecasted to run out, and then monitor that. If you're selling more, again, you can adjust your pricing. If you're selling less and you see I'm not going to run out until January 3rd, I want to maybe drop my price a little bit or increase my marketing so that I can stock out by December 20th, for example.
So it is recommended for the seller to just make their inventory projection in advance and just maintain their stock levels before holiday season starts. And if a seller is new, like it's their first year, so how can they compare the sales projection as compared to last year?
Yeah, so we're not able to pull that data because we only can pull data from that particular account. I would recommend looking at, there's an app called Keepa, and there's probably some other apps where you can look at similar products,
like
right?
competitors.
And you can see, yes, exactly. So look at, say, the top competitors and see what their sales patterns are, see how much inventory they're selling. It would be a good idea to take, let's say, the top, 5 to 10 competitors and see how many sales per day they made for that period of time, because that gives you, or even that month, that gives you an understanding of the market, how much inventory, how many units per month or per day could sell, so that I don't forecast too high if I know that, I'm going to be one of 10 sellers and the top seller is selling 500 units a day. I shouldn't forecast that I personally will sell, 300 units because the market is not that big.
Okay, great. So how can a small or medium-sized Amazon seller stay competitive with the large brands in terms of supply chain efficiency? Because we can see that there are some other players, other brands which are big in the same niche, and they are selling for very long. So they must be having some 3PL, large stock at their 3PL. They must be ordered some container. So how can new or medium seller can actually compete with them in terms of supply chain? So they might not get out of stock in the main season.
Yeah. So for one, like we talked about, consolidating, working with a company who can consolidate your shipments so that you are getting those additional rates, being able to control your cash flow, as we talked about. And then another trick is to look at your packaging. When you're starting, especially if you're starting to work with a supplier, can you reduce that packaging? Can you have lower fulfillment fees, for example? If I have a product where I can get it into a lower fee tier, then I'm going to make more profit to be able to compete with those other sellers.
Okay, so they must have to work on their reorder plan, and they must have to work on their packaging, so they can have the lesser volume and they can store more units in that.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so what role does data play in the optimizing supply chain, and how can seller use SoStocked analytics to improve their logistics?
Yeah, so data is extremely important. Data helps you to forecast, and then anomalies, like if you've got a big sale that happened, you want to make sure that you're filtering the data. If you have a sale because you work with an influencer, that data is going to be skewed, so you want to be able to remove that.
Exactly.
That's something that Amazon does, that's something that SoStock does. And then if you've got a stock out similarly, that data is going to be skewed as well. So you want to be able to filter that out, which is another thing that SoStock does. So analyzing the data, but not taking it at face value, being able to adjust it and to think with it, and then being able to have eyes on what products are moving too quickly, what products are moving too slowly, and get the inventory and the marketing team to sync up and work together, so they're not siloed into their own little, teams, own little worlds, because the most important people in terms of inventory and profit are the marketing people. So they're not just responsible for the marketing; they will be responsible for that inventory, whether it moves or it sits, and they will be responsible for the profit from that.
Okay, so the marketing team have to manually put the data into the SoStock so SoStock can actually project them the inventory projection better in a better way.
So we have a bulk file. So the marketing team can fill out that bulk file and then pass it over to the inventory team.
Okay.
And the inventory team can upload it. They can see, based on this report that you sent us, this product is going to stock out. Send that data back to them and say, maybe you need to reduce your marketing on this product. So there are reports going back and forth so that the inventory team can be proactive with the marketing team.
Okay, so if someone is new to SoStock, so how can they know like from where they can have to pull the data manually? So are there any videos available in the SoStock for the training, like how to use SoStock effectively?
Yeah, we have a ton of training. And one of the other things that we do is we do one-on-one onboarding and data migration.
Okay.
So we can help to get all that data put in there to get the account set up. And then we will help to train. We have the videos, we have the customer success where you can email in and if you have a problem, we'll get a custom video of how to resolve that. But then the one-on-one with the onboarding specialist, and that can be a couple of different touch points, right? If you need, 2 or 3 calls to get the account set up and to understand it, we'll be able to do that for you as well.
Okay, so it is super easy for anyone to just migrate to SoStock and perform their logistic operation effectively.
Yeah, there's the bulk setups that have to be done, but once you're able to plug your data into the system and learn the basics of SoStock, it's very customizable. So you can put in the settings that you want based on your supplier lead times, based on your forecasting, and based on your warehousing.
Okay, so if someone is new and they are not clear, like either they need to move on to SoStock or not, so you guys can actually offer them consultation about the SoStock, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So how they can contact you?
Yeah, so you can reach out. We are on the Carbon 6 website, so we're one of the solutions for that, carbon6.io. And then in terms of reaching out to myself and to getting some free tools and seeing a demo, go to SoStocked.com/connect, and that's where we've got some hot links as well as some of my info on social media and things like that.
Okay, great. So what should sellers know about Amazon's IPI, like IPI score, and how can they improve it?
Yep. So the IPI score is the Inventory Performance Index. And that is essentially Amazon saying, here's a score, here's how we score you in terms of how good or bad we think you are at inventory management.
Okay.
So things like, do you have any inventory that is at Amazon but has no listing? That's called stranded inventory. Do you have, how much is excess inventory? How much inventory you have over what they deem to be acceptable? Have you stocked out recently? How quickly are you selling through your inventory? Right. So those metrics are important. The best thing to focus on, because those are a bunch of different, metrics. Everything ties back to sell-through. How quickly do you sell that inventory? So sending smaller orders in more frequently is going to help that. And that's also going to help you to prevent you from overstock. And so focusing on getting that inventory in and turning that inventory, meaning how fast do you put in a batch of inventory and sell through it, right? If I put a batch of inventory in and I don't sell out of that batch for 6 months, that's going to hurt my score. But if I send in 2 months of inventory and I sell it every month, I'm replacing inventory. That's going to really help that score.
Okay, so if a seller is having a very poor IPA score, like when they open and they see red score, maybe lesser, so how can they improve it?
Yeah, so just the sell-through, right? One of the first and probably easiest thing to do is if you've got stranded inventory, check out and see why are those listings, why are the listings that are connected to that inventory not live? Is there, for example, Amazon will make your listing inactive if your pricing is much higher than they think it should be, right? Than your competitors or than other people who are selling that product. So that will help. That will be a relatively light lift, but it won't have a huge impact, but it's something easy to do. And then focusing on a strategy to sell through your excess and sending in smaller orders more frequently will all help with improving IPI score.
Okay, got it. So as you know that Amazon is changing nowadays every year, like in 2014 when you start selling, so that Amazon that time was different and right now it is different. So with growing demands and increasing customer expectation, what are the biggest supply chain trends Amazon sellers should prepare for?
So in terms of supply chain trends, one of the things that is happening right now, Amazon is putting a lot of resources into developing their supply chain services. They call it Supply Chain by Amazon, and they have programs that they incentivize you for using their services. Amazon warehousing and distribution, that's a real big one, because when you send, it's basically a 3PL that's run by Amazon. So when you send inventory into this, and there's been mixed reviews, so jumping in right now is not changing your supply chain right before the holidays is never a good idea. But starting to test out Amazon warehousing and distribution to see how it works for you, maybe in the beginning of the year with a couple of products, is one of the trends. There's a lot of people moving over because there's several different fees that Amazon won't charge you if you're using that service. So that's one of the trends. And then another is using Amazon's shipping services, because they'll give you even a reduced rate on Amazon warehousing and distribution if you're using their shipping services. So we're seeing a lot of people moving over to at least incorporating, if not using completely, at least incorporating more of Amazon's services.
Okay, great. So how are the innovations like automation and AI changing the landscape of Amazon supply chain? Because we have seen nowadays like every tool is basically indexing AIs in there, even Amazon Seller Center itself. So is there any feature available from the AI in SoStocked, or if are you planning to do?
So in terms of right now, there is, we don't have AI incorporated, but the Carbon6 as a whole just acquired a company called Jungle Analytics or Junglelytics, and it is an AI tool where it can look at your Amazon data and give you recommendations. So Carbon6 as a whole, we're very much gearing toward how do we stay ahead of things and incorporate the automation and the AI into the platform itself. How do we pull the tools together into a more streamlined servicing, right? So you go to one platform and you're able to get as much done as possible, so you don't have these 10 different tools open on 10 different tabs on your computer, and you have data sharing so that when you need something done from the inventory side of things, then the marketing side of things can respond. So the whole idea is, how do you bring all those things together? And the acquisition of Junglelytics was a huge step in that direction toward bringing more AI capabilities to Carbon6.
Okay, great. So that means AI will not impact on supply chain that much.
At this point, I've found that AI is not always great at forecasting. You can do simple formulas or simple formulas, simple things like tell me how many products to send in. If I'm selling this amount and over this period of time, it can tell you, but then when you're trying to get it to analyze complex things over a long timeline, it can't figure out that timeline very well. So I'm sure that there will be other things that come out. It's just in terms of that side of things, it hasn't yet caught up to being able to be a reliable source.
Okay, great. So if you could give Amazon sellers one piece of advice to improve their supply chain and fulfillment process, so what would it be?
Yeah, I would say focusing on the cash flow side of things, figuring out ways to adjust things that can be huge in terms of being able to grow. For example, the supplier terms or storing your inventory elsewhere. Another piece is, like we said, the resizing, just looking at all of your cost centers. How much does it cost from the point of, production all the way, and then we have 3PL, and then we have this, and then, every single fee or cost that you spend, take a look and see if there's a way to reduce that fee or to increase the amount of time it takes to have to pay it. If I don't have to pay something until 30 days later or 60 days later, you won't be selling your inventory. You won't be selling through your inventory until months after you've paid for it. So see if you can increase that timeline instead of having to pay for your inventory 3 months before you have to before you sell it. Let's see if we can make it 2 months.
Okay, great. So at last, can you just tell me something about Carbon 6? Like for those of people who don't know what Carbon 6 is, and you already said that there are multiple tools under that one roof. So what about Carbon 6? Like there are some other tools we can see that people use, some tool for product research, some tool for Amazon PPC marketing, for supply chain management. So if they go for the Carbon 6, so if they go with that, so what benefit they will get?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things. We have a PPC tool. We have an analytics tool called Managed by Stats. But some of the biggest pieces that we have in terms of adding value, besides SoStocked, Seller Investigators is a tool that is able to get you Amazon recoveries, and it gets you Amazon recoveries at a higher success rate than a lot of the other competitors can do, right? It's very important to take action on that. They have created different rules around how often you can request that money back. It used to be that you could request money back for a certain type of charge looking back 18 months. Nowadays, they only let you report the last 60 days. So what that means is that you have to be very diligent, right? If those 60 days expires, you're never going to see that money back. So if you don't have someone who is actively on your team opening those cases and getting Amazon to give the money back, you would want to consider working with Seller Investigators, because they'll have people around the clock working to get you that money, right? And so that's one of the tools that helps to streamline your Amazon business. And then the other couple tools in terms of increasing ranking and increasing sales is to use PixelMe. PixelMe creates Amazon ads for Google, Facebook, TikTok, and with the direct intention to be able to increase your ranking. Right, Amazon loves outside traffic, so increase your ranking, increase your visibility, and then DSP, which is demand side platform, is very similar in the sense that it puts more ads outside of Amazon to bring in more traffic to increase your conversions and your traffic and ranking.
Exactly. So there are multiple things which people are missing out. So if they go with a Carbon 6, so they can find all the tool under one roof, and they can actually make their Amazon performance effective.
Yeah, and they can they'll have an account executive. So that's a rep who will talk to you. What do you want to fix in your business? What do you want to do better? And be able to specifically customize the tools in your Carbon 6 toolbox to fit with your own business needs at that time.
Okay, that's great. So I think that's all for today. Like I have got the answer of all of the questions which I was having, and you have answered them in a very good manner, in a very understandable manner. So thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. It's fun.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed the video and learned something great from it. So if you find my content really informative and helpful for you, then make sure to like the video and subscribe the channel as well, so you can watch more and more videos like this in future. Let's meet in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye.